Welcome to Season 3 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country who are joined by a surprise guest each episode. We're glad you're here. We hope you enjoy the ride. This is RecLess.
Welcome, everybody, to the 56th episode of RecLess, podcast focusing on the industry of parks and recreation through three close friends that are in different parts of the country. My name is Jay Tryon. I will be your host today. And as always, we are also here with Shane Mize and Tom Venniro. How's it going, guys?
What's up?
Good. It's going well. That was a better greeting than last week from Shane.
Little delayed.
I was delayed because I thought this was episode 55.
Am I wrong?
No, it's 56.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I might have said the wrong episode last week.
No one listens to us. Doesn't matter.
You know,
Good
the
point.
funny thing is, when you did yours last week, you said episode 10 of season 3, but at first it was like episode 10, and I'm like, this is definitely not 10. But then you're like, oh, it's season. Okay, so that makes more sense, because I think I've been like just referencing the total number, not that there's an incorrect way to do it. So cool. How's everything? You guys are good?
Yeah, you see my shirt? This is one of the rare misprints that they still sent us.
Really?
You see it all?
How so?
See it cockeyed?
It doesn't look any different to me.
Can't really tell. Could be the contortion of your body.
No,
No, it's just those
no,
big
it's a
pecs.
rare
No,
misprint.
It is diagonally instead of perfectly horizontal.
It's one of those that they sent that was diagonal, and
Interesting.
she gave us a credit for it, but I wear it because it just cracks me up, because it just reminds us we're always a little off on everything, apparently, even with our episodes and our numbering.
Yeah,
It's
there you go.
okay. It's
Next
all
time, I'm just gonna like make up a random number and see if you guys even catch it.
Episode 357.
Exactly. Well, hey, we got a great guest that is waiting, and I want to actually kind of pick up on a conversation I had with our guest earlier this week and ask you a question based off of that. So I was talking to our guest earlier in the week, and they were sharing with me a significant accomplishment that they recently had within their department. And it got me thinking, you know, the three of us have had a variety of different accomplishments, and some we've shared with each other, and some that we were a part of with different maybe awards or recognitions. Is there one accomplishment so far, and obviously we still have many more years to go, we'll have a lot more, I'm sure. Is there one accomplishment that comes to mind that you're very proud of?
Can it be one that two of us have achieved and one of us has?
If that's where you want to go, you can definitely go there. It's not the first time we've referenced that.
It's never gets
That's
old.
funny. That's funny. Are you talking accomplishment career-wise, or like at the agency we're at now? Does it matter?
Just somewhere in your career. Yeah. I mean, the one I'm going to mention is not in my current agency, which is obviously hard because I've only been here 8 months. If you guys aren't ready to go, I can go.
Yeah, go first.
And it was just like I said, we were having a conversation, the guest and they mentioned something they were proud of, and it got me thinking. And you know, we've all opened different parks or different open amenities, but when I was with the town of Indian Trail, you know, we were building parks for the first time. It was a brand new department, and one of the parks was a regional destination. You know, we were the first municipality to have a tournament complex with a 4-diamond, you know, baseball, softball complex. It was the first dog park. It was the first splash pad. So there was just a lot of firsts, and it was really exciting. The amount of time and blood, sweat, and tears put into this park is something I'll never forget. Ultimately, because that grand opening is how it went. It was super smooth. A ton of people showed up. Seeing everyone's face of just riding the zip line on the playground for the first time and just walking through the park and enjoying that. And then, you know, fast forward, that was in 2015. So it's almost been 10 years. And still, when I talk to people around North Carolina, or even parents, you know, I'm very involved in different sports leagues right now because my kids are playing sports. And when I hear of a family that said they played in a tournament in Union County, and I'll say, well, where did you go? Even though I know the answer, the only tournament complex is Indian Trail, Crooked Creek. And they're like, oh, we're at Crooked Creek. And I just ask them, like, hey, what did you think about that park? and they may not know my involvement or may not know that I was there, and they just typically rave about it. So it's cool to know that it's had the impact it's had, even when I've been gone for, 6, 7 years, but people are still loving it as much as they did the first 5 years that it was built when I was there. What you got, Tom or Shane?
Well, I'll go a different direction. I think, Jay, that's a great story, and there's really nothing better than when you hear from maybe even outsiders, that they go to your facilities or your programs and they have something great to say, and it's sometimes unsolicited. They don't know what your role is, like you said.
Yeah.
Just going in a different direction, it's hard to, you mentioned impact, and you could measure impact of a facility in a way, but it's really hard to measure impact of your own oneself, right? And I don't want to go like, I don't know how impactful or successful that I personally have been, but I did have a conversation about 2 weeks ago with a retiree. So this retiree from this community had worked here for 20 plus years, reached out to me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I had a question for you, and it's been a while. Want to go grab lunch?" So we go and grab lunch. And at one point during the conversation, we were talking about just in general my time here. It's been 11 years. So I'll give you a little bit of context is that the individual that I came in after was here as the director of Parks and Recreation for 30 years. And so I know we all know people like that, but that's usually a pretty great measure of success, longevity, and then you go around the community and you talk about these individuals or people talk about them. And so, needless to say, big shoes to fill. His name, God rest his soul, Steve Fowler, one of my mentors. He was just amazing at what we do. His wife, Linda Fowler, was my first actual director in Gates. So it was I don't know if you want to call it a legacy family, but it was a power duo,
Power
right?
couple.
Yes,
Yeah.
power couple in Parks and Rec. So either way, big shoes to fill. And while we were at lunch, the individual at one point, and again, I don't know how we got there, they said, "Hey, I got to be honest with you. When you were hired, we didn't think you were going to make it. After all that Steve did and what he really just put this community on the map and built such an amazing empire, to have to come in and, obviously make it your own and obviously continue on the positivity I guess it was somewhat of a challenge. I didn't really realize while I was in the moment. And just having heard that comment was, I don't know if that's the greatest accomplishment, but it was, and I can't really, again, measure my own success, but it was something that made me very proud to hear.
Yeah, I think because it's so fresh in my mind, I'm probably going to go in a direction similar to what Tom had gone with. I mean, impact is something that I have always valued and have always strived for in some ways. We did our play day at the Capitol yesterday. Jeff, my AD, managed it, and we had Terry Black's barbecue, which I think both y'all have gotten to have when we were in Dallas. Their original location is Austin. We did Terry Black's barbecue 2 years ago when we were in session at the legislative area or the Capitol. We did a play day. I did not go. I didn't have Jeff forcing me to go that time. He was working in Harker, but we had like 15 legislative staffers show up, and we had 45 staff, and we had games all day, and we're on the lawn of the Capitol. We're just trying to get people to come out during their lunch break and interact with Parks and Rec professionals so they know a little bit more about the industry. These are legislative staffers and legislative representatives that don't always know a lot about Parks and Rec, but they're making some decisions based on, grants and those types of things for us, federal dollars. And so we just wanted to get to know us and what we do. This year we had probably right under 250, 300 people there from 2 years ago. It was incredible. And when I was sitting there was a recent retiree, Pam Nelson, who was a highly acclaimed Park and Rec professional in the colony. And she had just retired recently, and she's working for consulting. And we were just talking about what's it like to go into the consultant world and retire. And she, I don't know if y'all remember, Sports Illustrated at one time did the Park and Rec Agency of the Year a couple years ago. And she was the one for Texas. That's the best of the best. At one time, Sports Illustrated did this within RPA, and every state had one legacy or one agency highlighted. Of all the agencies in Texas, all the ones you think of, Round Rock, Grand Prairie, all these, the Woodlands, Pam's group, the colony, was the Sports Illustrated Park and Rec Agency of the Year for Texas. So, she's done some incredible stuff. And she was just saying how proud she was of me. She remembered me as a Textern which is the thing Michael and Lord had created based off the externship program. And she just remembered me being like this really raw young professional that just kind of came onto the scene, and I'm bumping into walls and knocking down the china, and like, I don't think, and I was talking to Hannah about last night, I don't think my profile is a profile that if you just said it, here's a guy, failed coach, a design major, barely got his park and rec degree and his master's, is introverted, low executive function, is quite ornery at times, will curse, won't dress up. I don't know if that profile is someone that anyone thought would have made the impact that I've been able to make in the industry, whether it was young professional stuff or the master planning stuff we've gotten some awards for, even just that sports court we just finished that I'm super proud of. It's the first of its kind in the country. In fact, we talked to NRPA. We're going to apply for a national award because they think it's worthy of it, which all that's really cool. But I was just fortunate enough to come into a place where I could just be me, whatever that was, and get better at being me and not trying to be anybody else. And that has found a pretty successful little niche in this industry. So yeah, there's been a lot of cool things I've been a part of. And I hope all of us, we won that. We all got that recognition at the Academy. I think all of us will have a career that we look back on very fondly. And we're very fortunate to have found people that worked under us and people that trusted us and agencies that put us in the spots that we were able to be successful. But I don't think anyone saw me coming out of high school or college or even grad school and thought this guy's going to do or have the impact he's had. And I think it's pretty cool to look back and see that from time to time, that you don't have to try to be anybody else. You can just be yourself.
Yeah, no, I could relate. And even Linda Kotowski, during our show and episode with her, she had either mentioned before or during how proud she was of us. And yeah, that means a lot coming from individuals like that.
Linda, when I first met Linda, I mean, I'm wearing sleeveless hoodies. My beard's down to like the middle of my chest. I'm wearing cargo shorts. I was a disaster, like there's no way that's why it's funny every time I talk to someone, even in Texas, and they're like, I can't believe you're a director, like you're not the guy that you started out in an industry. So it's been interesting.
I love that. And I think that is a testament to show our industry, our profession, needs all walks of life and needs
very accepting.
Yes. And it needs to be, because obviously we're serving every walks of life possible in our communities that we serve. So, it would never be a good cookie cutter approach to make sure every director, wore this and dressed like that and looked like that. I mean, that would never fly. And, you definitely have done it your way and it's been successful. And I love that. I respect that so much. So cool. Well, let's not let the ghost, the guest,
the ghost,
the guest,
wow,
Mama Bear, the ghost,
wait too long.
Right.
Yeah. So for those listening, the guest is named Mama Bear. I don't know if that gives you all any hints.
Scary, actually.
Scary. Okay. Well, I'm excited about the guest.
Mama Bear's only a term that someone uses when they're fixing to rip your head off, right? Like, I'm a Mama Bear. Yeah. I'm the Mama Bear. Roar,
Let's see where this goes then today.
Yeah.
So our guest has a plethora of experience, roughly 40 years of experience with a variety of different roles. They are a proud Army brat and was born in Virginia, but have also lived in Ohio, Japan, Germany, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. In college, they had a motorcycle, and their dad was not fond of paying for that bill, so they worked at a local pizza shop to make sure they can pay the bills. This guest has presented regularly, both on a national and a regional conference stage. Their first park job was a chief park ranger in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Our guest is also an avid sports fan, but I am not going to tell you what teams they support, because I think you might get it, or you might find out some hints from that. But I will tell you their favorite college teams are Wisconsin and Villanova. Our guest has been very involved on a local level with their local Boy Scouts club and has been on the executive committee for 7 years. They have served in a number of committees within the Academy.
Another Academy member.
Yes. Our guest is in. You got a hint? Our guest?
No, I was just going to make a comment. 2 Army brats 2 consecutive weeks.
Yeah.
Our guest is an advisory council member of the National Association of Park Foundations. They have been a regent for the Park and Recreation Maintenance Management School for many years. And they have also served on the conference program planning committee for several years. Along your side, Shane. So you have worked with this person. Karen
Hesser?
Yes, today's guest is the Chief Executive Officer for Five Rivers MetroParks. Please welcome Karen Hesser.
Hey, Karen.
What's up?
This is awesome. I figured the CPC would give it away there, Shane.
Well,
I had two more things, but you got
the
it.
Japan thing was like, okay, I've heard this before. I could not remember where, but I'd heard that before. I was like, man.
Well, and it's
actually the maintenance gave it away. The final one was the maintenance.
Really? Yeah.
Because you don't see a lot of people in the academy with the maintenance background that Karen has.
That's where the mama bear comes from, because that's what a lot of the long-term regents and whatnot refer to me as. So.
I bet.
Well, if you
I was going to put Philly fan, but then we figured that would.
That's what I was just going to say. If you would have said Phillies.
Yeah.
If I would have said Phillies and said that this person was watching the Phillies game while we were getting ready to go to the Academy banquet a month ago, I don't know
during.
if you would have.
I believe
Yes.
during.
And during, yes.
Yes. So
She did say Villanova. She did say Villanova. That's Philly too, but it wasn't the hint I was looking for.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. So, it is very, and we were cracking up about the Army brats 2 weeks in a row. So,
yeah.
Well, and I want to kind of start with that. So, obviously, by the time this is released, people will know that last week's episode was Cindy Sullivan.
Which Tom brought on.
And there were several references to Karen throughout that episode. And I'll be honest, there was a couple hints during the intro that I thought it might be Karen last week. And I'm like, man, I think I got taken again, literally leading up to my episode. But with that in mind, when we had Cindy on last week, we talked a lot about having a tribe or a close group of professionals that you can share your journey with and you can ride along that career path with. And when Cindy talked about it last week, she referenced Karen multiple times. So I wanted to get Karen's take on how that has been for her, having a tribe throughout her career path and what that has done for her.
Yeah, without question, from the jump, when I started in the profession, that has been the rock solid base of operations, if you will, to the point where the gentleman, I'll share, I didn't share this with Jay, but the gentleman that hired me literally to mow grass at one of our county parks in Pennsylvania that basically exposed me to this profession lives about an hour outside of Wheeling, where Ogilvy is. And whenever I'm on the board, he'll come over on the Saturday to have lunch with me. Right. So from 1979 to now, that friendship and that mentorship and that guidance and that support, literally from the day one, and it's just evolved from then. And so, as part of that, still a proud member. Left Pennsylvania in 2005, but I pay my dues every year to be part of PRPS.
That's
I
cool.
left Arizona. I continue to pay my membership to that state organization because it's all about those connections and family and relationships. So.
That's unique. I don't know if a lot of people are still paying for their old memberships. You're a multiple state member.
I am.
Love that. That's
I didn't
cool.
know that. And I just, not that this is any really related, but I just came back from Pennsylvania in the PRPS fall membership meeting. So I'm sure you're very familiar with that. And I served as their general session deliverer. So
that's awesome. I saw the post up on online, but I didn't get into the details. So yeah.
Other states should be hiring Karen as a fundraiser, because if she's there for a little bit, she just stays, keeps the fundraising efforts going.
Exactly. Well, it's important. It's important to profession. So,
Karen, I want to jump into a topic that we don't speak about a lot, and that's the park ops side of things. And maybe we could just kind of start broad and general in you sharing your experience with our audience about that side of Parks and Recreation. And I think we could all agree with this. When you go to NRPA or any conference, state, local, it's harder to find I guess that the amount of park sessions and content, although in an exhibit hall, obviously it's flooded with that.
Correct.
So
Right.
yeah, tell us about your experience and kind of your journey through park operations.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, I literally got a summer job mowing grass, and I was a former Girl Scout and all that. Spent a lot of time outside and working with my dad, and in our yard at the house and whatnot. And I thought, gosh, you can get paid for this,
Mhm.
as a job, right? And so I spent that summer just kind of diving into it a little bit, as I mentioned, talking with Tom Waters, gentleman that I referenced earlier, and really just investigating what this looked like, right? And so I was like, this is awesome. I was running around mowing grass on a international harvester belly mount tractor, and I just thought that was the cat's meow. Weed whacking, and I don't mean weed whacking with a still gas powered thing. I had a hand whack,
Oh.
whacker down by the creek, kind of doing that. And I enjoyed every minute of it, mostly because you could actually, not unlike today when you move some emails around and whatnot, when you're doing park operations, you know what you've gotten done for the day. You can see those mow lines. You can see the lines on the field. You have a sense of accomplishment. And so I went back to Slippery Rock because I had gone to college honestly, initially as a phys ed major, having played sports in high school, but realized that they were going to try to make me play and teach field hockey, and I didn't want any part of that as a catcher. There's a lot of running, and so I changed my major to English that first, freshman year, and then I found Parks and Rec. So I went back, I changed my major, and never looked back. So having secured that degree in resource management from Slippery Rock, I got employed full time back with the county where I'm from in Chester County, Pennsylvania. That following summer after college graduation, again as a seasonal park maintenance tech. And the HR director knew, me a little bit from those years, and she sent me a job notice for an administrative assistant position with our county soil and water conservation district, just to give me full-time employment. So I did that along with the park maintenance, but then I transferred into being a park ranger, right? Part-time on the weekends once I got the full-time job. And so that was, another world to me. Fast forwarding a little bit, I managed to become the chief park ranger for the county at age of 22, and I did that for the next 8 years. But my heart has always been in maintenance, right? Because I've always said parks are for people, and it starts in parks. And so in order to, whatever that looks like, whether that's that recreational facility for some of the municipalities that are out there, oftentimes in a park, setting environment, you have to be able to take care of the facility, the park, and whatever that is for the folks to be able to come and enjoy it. And so again, having that sense of accomplishment and making sure that that's first and foremost, that continuous improvement, right? Whatever that looks like in your facilities. But honestly, now here with Five Rivers MetroParks, we are a conservation agency. So of the more than 16,000 acres that we manage, 90% of that is in open space, so not developed. So it's that concentration on making sure, though, in those acres that we're taking care of those as well, whether it's invasive species management, water protection, water quality, those kinds of things. So it's a heavy lift for sure. Your point is well taken, Tom, about all the equipment stuff, but the sessions have improved for sure, both at the national level and also at the state level. But it's hard to get sometimes park people to talk about parks.
Well, we just went or got back from Atlanta, and my agency is relatively small, probably not the smallest, but in terms of full-time staff, we have 8 or 9, and this was the first year that we took 3 to NRPA, and one of them was our park foreman, and had nothing but great things to say, especially when comparing the landscape of it to a state conference,
Sure.
which is really watered down for parks and very heavy on the recreation. And you said a lot of really wonderful things there, and I'm really glad we're having this conversation. One that I really love for those who we want to, that we are exploring that avenue, right? The Parks Avenue. And Shane and Jay, just to kind of tie this back to the working genius, if you are someone who is a tenacity person, it's amazing how Karen mentioned that you can see the results at the end of the day, right? You can see the feel. You could, think about when our team just finished a dog park that they basically designed and installed completely on their own. And they see that results. I mean, it's tough. It's a long road, Karen. Like
Right.
there's a lot of red tape, but it's a really wonderful, wonderful journey. And it's really nice to see how tangible it is. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, I will also just mention too that one of the things that really brought it home to me, regardless of my training and experience, was when I became a superintendent back in Chester County. One of the requirements then of that position that I then wrote into job descriptions was for all of the park supervisors. And I did this in Pennsylvania and Arizona, and it's expected here. It's not in a job description, but to attend the maintenance management school at Ogilvy, right? So that school's been going on for more than 50 years, and it's that 2-year commitment to make sure that whether you're an entry level individual, it's regular technicians can go to that to be exposed to all of the various elements that park maintenance management encompasses, right? And so just to give you those connections. And going back to the tribe, a gentleman that I sat next to when I went to the school in the early 90s, he lives in Cincinnati. Now, at the time, I was in Pennsylvania, then I moved to Arizona, but he's been in Cincinnati that whole time, and we are still friends to this day. And he then served also on the Board of Regents. So, at any time from either attending or participating as a regent with these schools, the ability to pick up the phone and call somebody across the country if you have a challenge, if you need a policy example, or you're struggling with an issue or have a question, that school in and of itself, you're sitting in those classrooms with people from across the country that have experienced similar things as you. So it creates a great opportunity for learning.
I love that we're talking about park ops. When I was in grad school, we kind of casually called each other parkies or reckies. Like you almost go on one side or the other. And I think, to carry that out, the NRPA conference is a conference for reckies. It's the folks that like planning and going and attending and socializing, and your park folks, your park ops folks, normally that's not the thing they find a lot of enjoyment in. But I've also, over the years, in any type of management position, you'll hear someone say something very dismissive if like two ladies are in the office. Oh, those are just some catty ladies, or they kind of got, they were being there's some drama or tension or whatever. You don't understand the drama that goes with managing park ops crews. And I lean heavily into my athletic side, more probably with the management of my ops teams than I do anything with my rec staff. And that's because if a one rec staff member gets frustrated with another rec staff member or a decision they have an office, they might be able to shut a door, or they're in some cubicles and they can step away. Their day's not programmed out 24/7. Those ops folks, if they get frustrated with the other, if someone doesn't do something right and someone else has to pick up the slack, their reward for that is getting into a hot truck that's been sitting there while they went to do the mowing and the trash cleanup, not on, maybe the windows are down. There's 4 of them, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And, you're then driving to your next location. There's no way to get away. And so managing their emotions, their frustrations is much more difficult, I think, than managing to aquatic specialists, right? You can just separate them. Someone go to the one side of the building, someone go to the other side of the building. You don't get to do that with ops crews. Like they kind of have to roll together. It's much more like athletics in some ways, like the locker room, and there's only so many places to hide. But it's a valuable, and we all come up through in this industry where you have some rec experience. Like I came up not having a lot of aquatic experience, but I actually had ops experience for a long time. And I think that's helped me in my career. And I had rec experience as well. Some people come up with only rec experience and they have to take on this beast of operations and understanding the mindset or whatever. What do you think is the biggest misconception from your rec oriented colleagues about park ops?
It's usually the other way around, where the park folks have misconceptions about the rec staff. In my former role as chief operations that position had, parks, conservation, and recreation. So
Sure.
kind of all together. And one of the big challenges is always schedules, right? And so, the operations staff, the park staff are typically working different schedules, but somebody's got to be in the park 7 days a week to open restrooms and pick up trash and do all of those things.
Yep.
And so, and their schedules, and of course, again, having worked across the country in Arizona, gets hot as heck in the summer. So they're starting early, sometimes 5 or 5:30, so that they can get out before the afternoon heat hits. And so I'll use that as an example, where then the recreation staff, they're coming in the afternoon, because then they're programming the fields, especially in Arizona, at night, right?
Right.
And so very seldom, is there crossover in terms of same place, same time. And so communication becomes a challenge, and you have to be very intentional about that in terms of, the recreation team is expecting the fields to be lined at a certain time or a certain way, for whatever, but that didn't get to the park staff. And so then they're frustrated because of the drop ball, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
Pun intended. But so making sure, and so what are they doing? They're never here. Well, because they're working evenings and weekends when the other staff aren't, those kinds of things. But park staff are, in my career, I honestly through across the 3 states and different, it was a county, a municipality, and now a park district. So it's been an interesting 40 plus years for sure. But to a person, never have met a more dedicated group of people.
Salt of the earth, right? And I mean, they're the ones that, when there's a storm or they're flooding, they're the ones out there cutting trees or shutting down trails. And I think
same
when
with
I
our
talk,
rangers, they're out 24/7. So
and that's a tough job, telling people, especially the ones that can't write or enforce anything, just saying, listen, sir, you're not allowed to have a fire here. And they can say, go pound sand, or
correct.
That's a tough job. But I think a lot of people in our industry think the park ops guys are fairly replaceable, and the good ones aren't. They really aren't. It's tough skill set to have, and it's as much about skill as it also just as much about caring about making sure that park serves the needs of that community with a lot of autonomy. You really have to trust these crews are doing all the things that you need them to do, because you're not double checking everything. You just really can't.
And that pops out, and again, we're very trail oriented here at Five Rivers. I enjoy hiking, so I'm out there quite a bit. And so those things, it's kind of like, when you have a house and you've cleaned the house and there's one thing out of place, you can see that one thing that's out of place, like right away. And it's not a bad thing to say, oh my gosh, this light's out, or the latch is off the restroom, in the third stall, that they might not otherwise know. They're going in to clean it, but they wouldn't know that the latch is off, right? And so then I show up and I'm like, hi, here's a couple things I found, but it's about seeing it with a different pair of eyes. So.
Yeah. Karen, I think I could definitely relate to what you were saying about it's usually the other side of it too, right? So I've got my park staff who just don't understand what the recreation staff are doing, right? Like they've actually asked me, what are they doing? Whereas you could see everything, you could pretty much see everything the park team is doing. And just to go back to what you were saying, what you really have to have, and the advice I give, and I'd like to ask you after that, if you have further advice for someone who's going to be going deep into that park ops career and getting into not only the day-to-day maintenance, but the management, what advice you would have. And from me, it has been, over time, I've just noticed, you have to have thick skin. You are, I hate to say it, but you're at times going to feel like a punching bag. When something goes wrong, someone in the town hall offices are going to be calling, and you're going to be the individual who we're going to be calling on. And a lot of them, I know that's different based on maybe our setup. We're not only doing parks, we're doing facility maintenance as well. So, but to your point of all you just mentioned, all of those little things, everybody's eye sees them. Correct. And so you're getting, in addition to everything that they are trying to accomplish, the big capital project, how many times a day are these individuals be getting a phone call or a text message saying that we need you to come fix this right now? And stop what you're doing.
Yeah. Or they had a schedule. They were going to get to 3 parks a day. And then a mayor is now needing this tree to be uprooted and moved. And guess what? Your schedule's just changed, and those parks you're not getting to today, which means you're going to double time it tomorrow, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or we need fields, you need fields prepped, but this came up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And things like
a change in weather or anything like that.
I was just going to say weather, has an impact on all of that stuff. You can't play in a field that is completely, saturated, no matter how much diamond dry you put out there, right? The storms will come through. We, in 2019 here in Dayton, had 3 tornadoes come through the northern part of Dayton, and it impacted one park in particular. And we had to close the park for several weeks because of the number of trees that were down, and we couldn't let people in to safely access the park. So everybody in the district, kind of got all their equipment together, and we assigned people, and it was a true team effort to be able to get that park open for our public as soon as we possibly could. And then dealing with FEMA notwithstanding, following all of that. But it's when the tough times happen, when the team comes together, that you have a good one, right? So not alone in that.
Karen, you said something a minute ago when we were talking about park ops staff, and you mentioned rangers. And I've always said when I was with Mecklenburg County, the park rangers had probably what I would say is the hardest job, because typically when a ranger is interacting with the public, it's not for a good thing. They're kicking someone off a field because there's a group of kids or a group of adults playing soccer and there's a reservation. They need to actually have that field cleared for the reservation, or they're closing the fields at night because, hey, we're closing the park, or they're telling people they can't use a shelter because it's reserved. It's that daily interaction of almost telling people, hey, sorry, you can't be here. And I've always made it a point whenever I see our rangers in our parks, and even though I'm not with the county anymore, I still use the parks daily. And I run into the guys that they're there at 6 a.m. in the morning and they're there till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when the gates are closing. I pull them aside to tell them, hey, thanks for what you're doing. It's such a, great work that you do that is going unrecognized or unnoticed. Is there something that you've done either in your current agency or a previous agency to recognize that staff so they understand, like, they put in all the hard hours, they have the hard conversations with the public, and they are appreciated?
Well, we have had some retirements here this last year, and so a lot of promotions and new hires coming in. But many of the rangers, if not all, know that I'm a former ranger, and so they know with me now as the CEO that there's definitely a friend. That's cool. In administration per se, not the chief of public safety isn't their friend, but when the CEO is a former ranger, then that kind of helps know that I have their back. So making sure that, and really, I'm not, don't play favorites for sure, but every group, I do my best to make sure that funding and equipment and all of that, taking care of the building, their headquarters building. I'll give you an example, as silly as it is seemingly, but we have a restroom maintenance custodial contract for many of our visitor centers and our main office and things like that, right? To come in after hours to clean. Well, for years, the Rangers didn't have that. They were cleaning it themselves. And I went, wait, what? Why? It's a building. We need to do that. Yeah. And so now, they're on a same custodial contract as the rest of the district, right? That it was just, they always just did it, right? So as Parks and Recreation folks, we often operate through that scarcity mindset, and people just don't think to ask. But as soon as I found that out, I went, no, we got to change this.
Yeah.
And by the way, going back to the two sides of the coin, staff have encouraged me to change it, but my license plate has been from Pennsylvania to Arizona to here, PRKNREC on my personal car. So I practice what I preach, but my team wants me to have somehow conservation put into that. But
That's only so many spots. Can't have all of them. So program committee, are you still on or are you off?
I'm still on, although they keep scheduling the winter meeting that conflicts with our state conference. So I just shared that with Jay yesterday too, that I'm not going to be able to get to the winter meeting. But yep, I'm enjoying reading each and every one of those sessions that I've been lobbying for.
So we talked about program committee before, and 3 of us have been on it. Tom has never and never will. If we have anything to do with it, Jay, we will prevent him from ever getting on.
Nice. So at least there's always something that you and him are going to have that I don't have. So maybe that's that one thing that I
That's
can
right.
hold over him that he will never
That's
get.
right.
I
Never let
think
him.
the ship has sailed. You tried a couple times, and I never put that hat in the ring.
You
So
probably shouldn't have had me being your advocate. That was probably part of the
That's
problem.
probably why. That's why
well,
you didn't make it.
I didn't get the. Maybe I did apply once. So either way,
Yeah.
we'll move on. It's all right. There's people like Ashley who are gonna keep that committee going strong.
Yeah, she's going to be great on it. But I don't know if everyone completely understands what the program committee does. Through it all, from recruiting to potentially reading anywhere from 500 to 800 session proposals, and then meeting and gathering and doing a draft and figuring out how to put together this quality conference. You were an observer of the program committee years before you were on the program committee because of a tribe member and how close you were. But what has it been like being on the program committee, and what do you get from it? What do you get from the participation of it? Because it's a lift, it's a grind,
It's a commitment. It is for sure. For me, again, throughout my career, one of the things that I have always enjoyed, again, is making sure that I personally am going to sessions, for instance, whether it's at state or regional, national conferences, that are not in my wheelhouse, right? So I'm gonna step out and I'm gonna go to a session in programming when I was in parks, for instance, right? So that I could learn more about that. And so by being on the committee and being exposed to the vast amount of wonderful speakers and ideas, right? Because we operate off ideas, and we can't keep doing, none of us, I think, work with the same thing every day, right? I'm going to suggest that I think all three of you gentlemen don't adhere to the "we've always done it that way" philosophy, right? And so what is that next best thing? And so by being able to even read the session descriptions, sometimes I'm inspired to say, we need to reach out to this agency to find out more about this, whether or not it gets picked at conference or not. You're exposed to that information, and you can see where the real talents are. But it's never ceases to amaze me at how, as Shane said, it could be anywhere from 500 to 800 sessions, that we're reading, and then that gets distilled down through the auspices of the committee and through the support of NRPA to try to crystallize all that into what I believe to be the top training for folks across the country and internationally.
Well,
I guess I'm curious about that. Jay, do you mind if I jump in here
go
real
for
quick?
it. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I don't think I've ever really asked you all about this as deep as I'm about to, but the personalities, how many individuals are on the committee?
About 30, 25 to 30. It kind of rotates, but it stays in that range, I believe.
And maybe that initial process when you're trying to dwindle it down, and it's not like anything else. People are prideful and they want to be heard. And when your suggestions aren't necessarily being heard, or how is it inside that room? How contentious can it get? And I say that
Flip some tables.
Let's talk about that.
We've had some times, that with change comes, oftentimes you have to go through stress. What is the saying? You have to go through. If you go through hell, keep on going.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we've been there, right, for different reasons. And to a person, I think, over my time, certainly on the committee, not just as an observer, because I got to see some of that back in the day, it's done professionally, and it's sometimes scary, especially for some of the new members. Those of us that have been around the block a few times, are more willing, we'll say, to speak up, to share an opinion, and to throw that risk out there. But then that helps set the stage for the newer members to see, hey, this is a safe place that you can step up and be heard. But I referenced reading all of the sessions there for a bit. There was a procedure was that each person on the committee represented a strength area, right? I'll use myself as an example. I think it was called Leadership and Management, was a title of the different types of sessions that would fall under that. Well, I was sort of relegated to just reading those particular sessions and a second, right? Well, I wanted to know about planning, but I didn't get to weigh in on those sessions, right? And then it evolved to, well, if you opened up the menu to read one planning
Gotta
session
read 'em
and
all.
score, then you got to
Yeah.
read them all. Well, okay, then you got to commit it. And I said, I know from days past when everybody read everything, that it gave the person evaluating the sessions, you could know if Shane was putting in like 12 sessions, right, in different categories. But you could also say, well, gosh, there's already, 15 types of similar ilk, whether it's AI or fundraising. You can only have so many of one type of session that kind of sounds the same, right? And so that's where I think the beauty is in everybody reading every session, that you're just exposed to everything and have a better sense.
They used to read every session, then it transitioned, and I don't think NRPA was trying to do anything other than be real good intentioned and probably save some of our time and effort and attention. But I don't think it was our best version of ourselves. And I know that y'all have transitioned back to that, and I am happy, even though it means reading 800 sessions. That's kind of what you signed up for.
Right.
And to answer Tom's question, I mean, I think I was in on most of those hard conversations. I was usually the one either doing the screaming or getting screamed at.
Maybe the latter.
Yeah, in one way or another. But I just, I think you get better the more hard conversations you have in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, relationship with your best friends, and in the industry, in whatever room of people you're in. The more hard conversations you have. If I want the best for this industry and I disagree with something being said and I don't speak up, either I don't want the best for the industry in all reality, or I'm afraid of what pursuing the best looks like. And I'm just not going to do either of those things. So I can be disagreed with, and everyone can disagree with me. And then I said my piece, and it wasn't that it wasn't heard. It just wasn't that it wasn't agreed with by the majority of the people. And I'm cool with that. But I'm not going to not say something at the risk of maybe being the only person that thinks that way and it prevent us from being better. I'm just not going to do it.
Well, that's how it's meant to be. That's the whole process of having a committee, right? You bring great minds together and you have great deliberation. So one real quick follow-up question. I believe everybody has their own ego, whether they're small or large, right? Everybody's made up of whatever it is they are. And I know of a few presenters who have not gotten selected, who I believe they'll take it personally and not necessarily submit again. Have you ever seen that on the committee, that there's been disagreements? Just, quick answer. Disagreements so bad in such a tough discussion that someone literally got up and left. Or is that?
Oh, no, I haven't seen anyone get up and leave.
There were some cooling periods.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't think anyone left.
Here's the end of the day.
There were some breaks that were scheduled accordingly, but yeah.
At the end of the day, everyone on that committee has a lot of respect for what we do.
Yeah.
And, there's 25, 30 people on this committee, and we all respect each other. We all have a different background. We all come from different parts of the country. And we're there to put on the best conference that we think we can by choosing some of these sessions. In most cases, to kind of go back to your question, it may not have been, hey, that person's not a good speaker. The question may have been, that person is already speaking one or two other times. Do we need them again? Or that person has spoken on that topic for 5 years. Maybe it's time for a change.
Or they're the right speaker speaking on the right topic, but we browbeat the shit out of that topic over the last 5 years, and so all those things are variables.
Because, there's a lot of, go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say that oftentimes, so again, coming from my background, right, and parks and rangering and all of that, there are certain things that I'm not familiar with, right? And so as an example, Shane, I remember a few years ago, was supporting the notion of skateboards, right? And skateboarding parks and programming for that. I had skate parks in Arizona, but that's not what we do here. So I am not going to be up to date on the current trends with that. And so I'm going to defer to someone who does know, right? And so to Shane's point, part of that is that professionalism and know that the people that are on the committee all represent different agencies and perspectives and everyone's own experience. And so you can't always be right about everything or know everything. And so you have to rely on your team. And in this case, it's the entire program committee through the guidance of the NRPA liaisons.
Yeah. And
Oh, go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
I was just saying, like, going into that winter meeting too, when all the sessions are chosen, NRPA comes to the committee with extra data of either survey information from their previous year, of what really went well, what people want more of, or other trends that has been identified of, like, these are topics that we need to make sure we get into next year's conference. So that can sway some of the decisions that are made too, based on the submittals of what topics are being, thrown into the mix, and what conversations we maybe didn't have in the past, or do we need to repeat that one because this is a new hot topic we need to make sure we cover.
And I think it's important, to your point, Tom, about whether folks are haven't been selected and are reluctant to submit again. If they don't submit, they'll never be selected, right? So
Right.
you only miss miss the shots you don't take, right? So get them in. It's going to be open. It's open now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you've got hard feelings, submit a bunch and make these fuckers read a lot of sessions. That's how you get back at them. Make them read 1,000. That's how you get them. You don't not submit, you double submit.
I'm actually glad that you took it in that direction. That's what I was going to go next, was just basically comment on how I wish I rephrased the question for an individual who is, they've submitted and not been selected. Try again. We talk about it all the time with the gold medal. We talk about it with the externship or the young professional fellowship. You don't necessarily not do it again, right? Take the time, put it in. And this conversation you all just had, giving people some insight of why it isn't necessarily always selected, is very important for listeners to hear.
Right. Look at the theme for the conference, right? Now that's kind of a focus and sort of a driver to say, how does my session relate to that? Can I speak to that somehow?
Karen, I was going to ask, Jay started us off asking for something that we were proud of in our career, and he said that it was from a conversation y'all had. What was the thing you were proud of? Yeah.
What was I? Well, it happened a couple weeks ago.
So it was seeing RecLess. Is that what it was?
No. Well, that too, but
it's a very hard no.
Yeah, it was a hard no.
I know. Was that too quick? Sorry.
Hannah will edit that out. But yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I need to work on my pause. So I took over as CEO in May of 2023. Right, so about 18 months here, a year and a half in, and this is a little bit of a background to it. And so, as my former role as chief operations, and here for 12 plus years, I know the agency, right? The ins and outs, what's broken, what needs to be fixed, and all of those kinds of things, and where we could be going. And so, as part of that, we evaluated and sort of put rails around a significant maintenance, repair, and replacement backlog in our agency, to the tune of about $58 million, right? So with some decreased funding, we operate off of a property millage. So by Ohio law, millage that the agency has worked off of for the 61 years it's been in existence capped out in 2018.
Oh, wow.
So we knew, that we were, trying to make ends meet because of the valuation, right? The effective rate of the millage. It was paying for about 87% of our operating budget. So everything else, the other 13 cents of every dollar, had to come from philanthropy, donations, or we didn't do it. So we were starting to get more into the we're not doing it phase, right? So long story, a little bit shorter, after much reflection and conversation, we embarked on a second levy for the first time in MetroParks history, and went to the voters of Montgomery County for a 1.0 mil levy, and we successfully passed that with 61.99% approval. It was the single most voted on and agreed upon issue in the county this past election cycle.
Congrats.
So
in a very contentious election cycle too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So as I've told many, there was a lot this year that wasn't on my bingo card, but this incredible team here at Five Rivers making our case, with our public, making that clear in terms of what our needs are and our focus on taking care of what we have. And by that, I use it goes back to my Ranger thing of a COP, and that's capital, operating, and personnel. So all three legs of that stool needed attention in some way, shape, or form. So this 1 mill levy will provide an additional $14 million a year that we have, to use the word program out. We have already established what the calendar will be in terms of how we're able to spend the money to take care of what we have for our community, including an update to our comprehensive master plan, because we have CAPRA reaccreditation coming up. So in 26, so we have to get that done. I want to reevaluate our ADA transition plan that we did in 2014. So each one of those is about 10 years old time-wise, and we all know our communities have changed since then. Our agency has changed.
Mm-hmm.
So getting an organizational assessment done, updating our values, and making us and continuing to be that resource for our community here in Montgomery County. So for me, it has been the most impactful thing in my career to be able to help this process for the next generation, right? This is not, it's about now for sure, but it's about getting the agency set up for the future generations to enjoy our parks. So.
Oh yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
We're very, very happy.
No, that's huge. Absolutely. You've met Hannah. Hannah's our editor, and she listens to all these as she's editing and always gives me question advice. So we asked Cindy what was the first thing she remembered being good at growing up. And I want to ask you a similar type of question, but not that one. What is something you're just obsessed about, whether it's work or home life? Maybe it's a routine, but there's just something you're absolutely obsessed with.
Those Phillies.
Well,
Yeah.
Right now it's the Eagles. On a 6-game win streak, and a little concerned about it coming to a close of a win streak on Sunday night against LA out there. But yeah, I'm. If anybody knows me, I have I'm a huge sports fan. You can't really see because of the blurred background, but I've got a Philadelphia Eagles head sort of over there, and all sorts of sports memorabilia. And I can tell you that it's 15 days to the Army-Navy game. So go Army, beat Navy. So I would say, if
that'll be a good game this year.
Oh, heck yeah. Yep,
That'll be a good game.
This week's against Notre Dame, so we got to get past Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Army's undefeated right now too. So yeah, I'm pretty obsessed about sports. If I'm not.
Is part of that how you unwind too? Like that's a great way to just lose yourself in something for a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Unless it's the Phillies collapsing down the stretch for 2 years in a row. Just in case I
get it. I lose myself in sports. I don't always find joy in that. Most of my teams stink, but I do enjoy.
Come to the Philly side.
That's right. I do enjoy when my teams are playing to just not have to worry about work or anything else and just watching the game for a couple hours, rooting for them, seeing them even struggle, win, lose, or draw. I appreciate just having a little time away from anything else. It's kind of the respite for sure.
And I'd say my 1B is probably dad jokes, silly humor and puns and things like that. So,
I don't know if we knew that about you.
Yeah.
No, that's a new one.
Get a dad joke of the day from Karen.
Well, I'll give you a conservation joke for the audience, and that way they can share it in their communities. Have you noticed, especially just a few weeks ago here, certainly, and I don't know if you have them down where you are. I think you probably do. They're probably insidious. But the Canada geese, right? When they're flying overhead.
Oh no, we're in America.
They're in that V formation, right? And one side is typically always longer than the other. Do you know why that is?
No, but I noticed it yesterday too.
Right. There's more geese on that side.
Nailed it.
Very true.
You got
it. He took the bait.
I did.
She even said it was going to be a joke.
Right.
All in.
That's great.
I love it.
Okay, we're going to transition to what we call our rapid fire. So some quick
Okay.
questions
Oh
for you.
boy.
First thing that comes to mind when you and I were going over some prep work for this, I know one of your favorite things to do is read or listen to a book, audiobook. So you have a favorite in the last year that you would want to recommend?
I am catching up on the Daniel Silva series, so I don't have I just finished it, and so of course once I get past it, then I forget the name of the book. But Daniel Silva and those types of stories are engaging to me.
Ashley, was it Falcon? I'm terrible with
Fal-
last names.
Falcon.
Falcon, yeah. Was just on, actually, her episode released today. She's from New Jersey, but we asked her about some Philly things because we're going there. So I guess you're probably pretty pumped about NRPA going to Philly.
Most assuredly.
What places should we consider going to food wise or even, spots to see?
Gosh, well, Philadelphia, you can't not go to the Reading Terminal Market, which is right downtown.
She mentioned that too.
Right.
You mentioned Reading.
We love
Anything
a good food
Philly,
market.
you can get a good, well, the pretzels are always better from the street vendors, quite honestly, but they have those there. You can get a cheesesteak. My favorite, besides the Pats and Geno's,
Those are the
tourist,
people that are right across from each other,
right
right?
across from each
Which
other.
one are you? You have to choose one. Which one are you?
I don't, and here's
Okay.
why. I go to
But they both suck.
gyms.
They're tourist traps.
No,
huh?
they're good, but I go to gyms. That is
Okay.
now, I think, back open. It had a fire a couple years ago, and they were closed for a bit, but I think they're back open. So they're down on
Okay.
the South Street area. So that's my favorite cheesesteak is gym steaks, and
All right.
Goldenberg's peanut chews. You got to get those.
I don't even know
I
what that is.
usually, and going to my sports thing, you can get them on Amazon now, and so I get them in the little bite-sized pieces. And before every big Eagles, Phillies, or other major sporting event where I want my team to win, I eat one.
Okay, you
It's
blew
good
our
for good
mind.
luck.
Goldenberg's peanut
Peanut
chews?
chews, right?
And that's a what? If you had to describe
It's a
it.
little candy bar that has
Okay.
chocolate and some nuts and
Okay.
just particular flavors. Tasty cakes are certainly very Philly. Crimpets are my personal favorite of the baked goods from the brand. And
Any spots to visit in Philly? Like,
well, you have to see the art museum for sure. If you jump on the SEPTA, you can get down to the sports complexes and see all three stadiums right there in the same, sort of footprint. There's a good sports bar down there as well that you can Chicky and Pete's. I think is still out down there. I just always know where to go, not what the name is. It used to be Chicky and Pete's. I think it still is. But where did we just go? Getting out to Valley Forge, right? Birthplace of our country. You got to take a drive out west, out the Schuylkill Expressway, and I've pronounced it for you so you know. Locals call it the Schuylkill Distressway, but it's called the Schuylkill. It goes by the Schuylkill River.
okay.
Okay.
Go out and see Boathouse Row at night, right, where they illuminate all the lights. You typically see that on like Monday Night Football or
okay.
night games and stuff. You can go out there and see that. Fairmount Park, right? You have to park folks have to see the park. So certainly
Hershey's are from that part of the world too, right? That's where all of our chocolate got made up around there.
Hershey is from Hershey, Pennsylvania.
An hour and a half.
About an hour and a half out the turnpike for sure. But they don't. I don't think they pump the chocolate through the air, but it used to be when you get to Hershey, you could smell it, as you got in town. So
I just got back from Harrisburg, which was close, but not. Yeah, and I found a cheesesteak location establishment that was in the Harrisburg area, which I know I wasn't driving another hour and a half to Philly, but it was good. I'm looking forward to the real thing. So let's shift over to sports. It was not gyms, but that's what we're looking towards, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Let's shift over to sports, and my real question is Phillies, why? No, I'm just kidding. We've had this conversation. I'm a Braves fan in New York, and we've got the Mets and the Braves and the Phillies who have been rivals for as long as I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted just to get your fandom expertise on the Phillies. So, two questions. One is, out of the three individuals that I grew up knowing as a Philly, very young in my life, and then maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s. So Schmid, Rollins, or Chase Utley? Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Mike Schmid. How do you rank the three of them?
Schmidt, right?
Schmidt, sorry.
Mike Schmidt. And here's what you didn't know, Tom. Mike Schmidt is from Dayton, Ohio, and right outside my office is Mike Schmidt Way out
Wow.
here by the Dayton
Crazy.
Dragon. So there
I
you
think
go.
we know the answer.
I also want to just share too, just as an aside before I answer that in what order, that the NFL was invented, if you will. The first game ever was here in Dayton. So if you ever get to see the movie Triangle, that's a privately funded film, but it's about how that happened here in Dayton. So
And I
Schmidt,
left out pitchers. So Cole
Understood.
Hamels and Schilling. Yeah, so Schmidt, Rollins, Utley. Maybe biggest fan favorite or yours. How would you rank them?
well,
Can I
I
add
grew
one
up.
to the list?
I actually have Mike Schmidt's autograph on a baseball.
Okay.
Also Steve Carlton and Pete Rose. So growing up, when I got back to the States, it was, Schmidt, right? Was my
Sure.
guy. However, Utley is
Awesome.
whose jersey I have from the World Series, right? So I have the World Series patch with Utley, and he's up for the Hall of Fame next year. And if he gets in, it'll be my first visit to Cooperstown, and it'll be because of him getting in. So,
Well, look me up. We're not too far from Cooperstown,
Alrighty.
and Chase Utley should have no problem getting into the hall. And my second question was the current team is very impressive. Who's your player? Is it Harper? Is it are there some
my favorite player is Real Muto, and that comes from being a former catcher. So, I kind of have to always go with the catchers, but because Bob Boone was my favorite, and that's why I wore number 8 between he and Cal Ripken. So,
okay, that's I wore 8 too as a kid because of Cal, and he was big around here, Rochester Red Wings.
I have his autograph too.
Yeah, I got one from him at the NRPA conference.
Even better.
Yes, Nile Bott was kind enough to get me a little inside access, and he is a massive man. I had no idea how big of a guy he was, but really,
it's
really
funny
great.
you talk about that, and you don't think about baseball players as being big.
Yeah.
But even just watching the World Series this year, I'm looking up guys to see. I'm like, how tall is he? I forget who it was that I was just stunned because they look the same, But then all of a sudden you get them next to a reporter.
Yeah.
Or,
They all look average compared to each other. It's when they see an average human being that you're like, okay.
Ohtani, I think, is 6'5".
Yeah.
Right. Like amazing. And Judd, I think, is Aaron Judge is
he's like
6'11".
Yes. He's up there, and
he's up there. I mean, just crazy.
Jay, you were going to add someone to that. Just curious who.
So I grew up and I was a huge baseball fan. What? John Kruk. That's the name I like. When I think of Philly as a kid, that's the first player that I think of.
Well, there's Dalton, Kruk, and Dykstra, but Kruk, they were more personalities, right? Like they didn't
Kruk
have
was the last of the non-athletes.
Yeah.
That was a different generation in baseball. He would never even make it now, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I did. I had a parakeet once, and I named it JJ, and that was for Jay Johnstone, who was the Phillies right fielder.
Okay.
So
that's funny.
That's what we name our co-host, JJ.
JJ.
Sweet baby Jay.
We talked about sports. We've talked about food, and I know you also love to travel. Where's your next trip planned?
The next trip is to Colorado over Christmas for a wedding, for family stuff actually. And I have another wedding out there in next summer, along with another wedding of a niece in June or July in Florida.
Have you been prolific with your traveling as Cindy? Wasn't Cindy that had like 46 states or something?
The national parks.
Yeah,
is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, no, she's been to, I think I have one more state than she does, only because I've been to Iowa.
Okay.
And we have a couple of the similar ones that we haven't been to, like Alaska. But no, so yes, I have my National Park Service, the little passport book with all of my stickers. And so, yes, that is a definite bucket list thing to get all of those checked off. So, yes, having lived overseas, too, it helps me in terms of having checked off a lot of the European countries for sure, having lived there. So,
well, I love that you threw in there that you have one more than her.
Am I competitive? You bet.
Maybe. I've got one more that I don't know how we haven't thought about this question before, so I'm gonna be the first one, and you're gonna be the first person we ask it to, Karen.
All
Is it
right.
pecan or pecan? Is that what it is?
That's not the question, but shoot, we do want to know.
But it's pecan for me.
Okay,
Duh,
all right,
yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
So no, we've
I'd
asked.
like to partake of the pecan pie.
We've asked individuals about their dinner table, right? Who even if they may have been someone who's passed, or who would you really want to eat dinner with? I'm gonna change this up. People that you are currently, could be your tribe or whoever, but if you were starting a RecLess podcast tomorrow,
Who are your other two co-hosts?
who are your two co-hosts?
That's a good
That
one.
is a fantastic question.
That's great.
Hannah, make that sound like it came from me in editing.
No, Shane, you can't have all the good ones, all right, Mr. Analogy.
He did ask earlier that he said that he gets question advice. So
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
There you go.
He's got a question book.
Well, I'd have to have Cindy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly. And that's a heck. I have three, or do I have to limit it?
You got
gotta
limit
do
to
three.
one
RecLess
more.
podcast.
And whoever you say next, I really hope they're our next guest, because that would mean we
I
would
know.
have had
Would that be
Cindy
funny?
and Karen.
oh, that would be interesting.
My Lord,
A lot of
it's so
pressure
hard
on
to-
Jay because Jay's got the next one.
The other person. I think just for fun, just because of how the conversations could go. I'm going to say Tiffany.
Johnson?
Tiffany Johnson,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
former guest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so RecLess.
Just because of how those conversations could
Oh,
go.
yeah. For
It's
sure.
it's like Marvel has the multiverse, right? So RecLess in one of the other multiverse universe with Karen Hesser, Cindy Sullivan, and Tiffany Johnson.
Right. We always say sister of another mister, with
love
together.
it.
So yeah.
Cool.
Karen, you've done a lot of traveling. Have you ever been to Disney? Tell me no. Tell me it's as look, because she's a world traveler, so she hadn't been.
I've been to both California
Oh.
and Florida.
And it was overrated.
One and
Well,
done?
Multiple
Yes.
times?
Well, now it's crazy. And I've also been to, what is it, the one with Snoopy in California, because Snoopy's really my guy, not the mouse. Good Lord.
Farms, something farms, right?
Yes.
Something
It
farms.
was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Long
I know what
time
you're
ago.
talking about.
But yeah.
The farm one, yeah.
But yeah,
Something-
so I'm more-
something Berry Farms.
Berry Hill? No.
It'll come to me right after we get off there.
Yeah. Anyway.
Brook?
But yeah, I'm a Snoopy person more so than the mouse. Although I do enjoy Goofy, I have to say.
Jack went to school with a goofy hot dog little plush today because it was show and share letter H, and H is not an easy one. So it was Goofy in the hot dog
hot
version.
dog, hot
Yes.
diggity dog.
That's right. Great song.
Yep.
We need Shane. Have you ever heard this song?
No.
Oh boy.
Knott's Berry Farms. Is that it?
Knott's Berry Farm, that's it. Yep. Owned by
So
the
she said it was
Tucker family.
overrated. I'm going to start asking people because Tom loads
It's
this with
just
Disney
so
people.
expensive. I don't understand it, and how
Thank you.
parents and kids can
Thank you.
afford it.
Thank you.
Well, we're taking Shane for the first time in 2025, and he is excited to
Fantastic.
wear some bunny ears or
The bunny
mouse
ears. What is
Mouse
this?
ears.
This is
I actually still have a pass that was supposed to be like a lifetime pass or something that has like days that I could take off
Sure.
of it or something. So I'm going to see if it still works because it's been since NRPA was in Orlando years and years ago.
If
So
they deny you, I want you to go full Karen on them.
you betcha. Mama Bear.
Full Mama Bear.
Oh, well, Karen, this has been excellent. I appreciate and we appreciate all the time you spent with us. And, we look forward to continue to talk to you out throughout the year in different conferences. But thank you for your time today.
Absolutely, gentlemen. I've enjoyed listening to the broadcast over the years that you've been doing it. Never ceases to make me chuckle. And I'm just glad that I now know that it's called tasseling and not just shucking.
There you go. There you go. Bobby Nance for the win.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
All right.
Thanks,
Take
Karen.
care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I love the reference of a recent episode as she drops the mic.
Yeah. No, that was great.
That was good.
She's great.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ladies that I've just known for years. And she's
Yep.
always been someone that you could just come to and ask questions or advice. She's always so level-headed about anything. When you talked, Tom, about where we were in some of those discussions and how heated they were, Karen isn't one that gets heated. She's passionate and she can make her point, but she just calmly explains her why she thinks what she thinks, and most of the time you're like, yeah, that's brilliant. I get it. She's incredible.
I could relate to that too, and in the sense that, work wise, I could probably you can give me some news, and then usually the next day I'm rolling past it and moving forward. And Karen definitely has a little bit of that. But you mentioned maybe that passion. I've seen her get on the extremes with the sports, with the Phillies.
That's where she saves it all for that.
And I'm the same way. Back in the days when the Patriots were worth watching. Gosh, you didn't want to be. I didn't want to be around you all when they were playing those games. So, and Jay, I'm pretty sure you could probably relate to that with your Buffalo Bills. By the way, big win last week.
Yeah,
if we
they're playing well.
Jay while the Bills are on, you're not getting it. Like
I don't keep my phone with me during the game.
Everything's off.
No. I got my phone is not with me. I typically, if it's a road game, I call my dad at halftime. We talk at halftime. If it's a home game, my dad's there, and then my mom will call me typically because she's home watching it. But other than halftime, like no phone, I'm in the zone.
Dialed in. You made your food.
Oh yeah, I got my food. Did some wings for that Kansas City game this past weekend, and they were great.
Good stuff.
So, good times, guys.
Yes, glad we could have. It was just kind of cool to have Cindy and Karen on back to back because I've associated the two of them together. At they're obviously very close. They're their own tribe, right? It's awesome.
No, I thought it was really interesting when you actually unveiled who it was.
Yeah,
there were several hints that I thought, and even by the name last week, I thought it was Karen, and it was funny and how I talked to Karen shortly after that episode, and I was like. And she had talked to Cindy, so Cindy knew, but she didn't tell Cindy she was doing it because she didn't want Cindy to actually spill the beans.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was all this behind the scenes to make sure no one found out. And yes, they're super close, and now they're back to back. So it's really unique.
I mean, that's a lot like us, and we always enjoy the moments that we just happen to be being recognized or something together as a group, or we're speaking together as a group. The fact that those two went back to back, completely unorchestrated. One host had one host had the other is just freaking chef's kiss. It's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, awesome, guys. Hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see y'all soon. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Thanksgiving. Favorite week of the year.
My favorite week. Everyone.
Yeah, it's good.
Listen to some RecLess on that over the Thanksgiving.
That's right. Yeah, we need our numbers up. Start re-listening the sessions.
But by the time this comes out, it'll be about 3 weeks after Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah,
good. It's fine.
Good point. Well, we hope you had a good one.
Yeah.
We hope you had a good holiday.
Boy, how was that Thanksgiving? That was great.
Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.
Right, see y'all later.
See ya.
Bye.